Hello, viewers and podcast listeners. You're tuning in at X Raised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. I am your host, Miles, to guide you through yet another thought provoking episode as we roll out the virtual red carpet for a familiar face. Joining us for his second visit is someone whose insights on leadership and transformation have not only resonated with our audience, but practically left us all rethinking how we lead our lives and businesses. He's a dynamic executive coach, entrepreneur, and the kind of leader who doesn't just build businesses, but rebuilds the very idea of leadership itself. Last time, we dove into his fascinating career journey from finance to founding preschools and learned how he uniquely serves his clients. Today, we're zooming in on what makes him a standout coach, his ability to redefine leadership in a way that inspires trust, compassion, and a whole lot of results. So, here he is, the founder and coach of Institute for Greatness, Anthony Te. Hey, Anthony. Welcome back to
Hello.
X-Rays.
Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for coming back. How does it feel to be on the hot seat once again?
It actually feels great. It's actually really fun to just be sharing my thoughts and journey.
That's good because I thought it's going to be twice the pressure. But don't worry, I'll try to be kind, though I can't promise I won't challenge you a bit. So let's get
Please
right
do. Yeah, please do.
So let's get right into your career journey, Anthony, which has been nothing short of remarkable. As we talked about it last time, you've transitioned from finance to preschools and now to coaching leaders. What sparked your desire to redefine leadership as a cornerstone of your professional philosophy?
Well, once you become a leader, you truly understand the difference between a senior manager, supervisor, and a leader. And that is such a rewarding epiphany, at least for me. And I finally realized there's actually another dimension to life. It's like life purpose redefined.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that many of us misunderstand the concept of leadership, thinking that as long as you have a senior title on your business card, that makes you a leader. But then I learned it the hard way because when I founded my two businesses, I had the most senior title in the organization. In the early days, some would resign to and citing poor management. I
Mm-hmm.
questioned what that meant. I mean, we were making money, we had better processes than before, we were getting paid, getting better benefits, and I was asking, what else could it be? Then, after some soul searching and coaching, I came to realize I was a senior manager with a glorified title, but far from being a leader. I
Uh-huh.
knew I had to change quickly because I risked my own capital to build these businesses. It wasn't just a
Mhm.
job where if team members were dissatisfied, they could just leave as long as I get my salary and bonus, and somehow
Right.
HR department would just magically find these replacements for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I had everything at stake here, especially for my second business, the preschool, where my own children were students. And then I had to genuinely be candid with myself. Then I start to really reflect and realize that I wasn't a leader because I wasn't fully present as a listener. I wasn't empathetic. I wasn't that compassionate or as compassionate as I should be.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
But good thing you realized that.
yeah, I had to
And you
because
acknowledge that. That's the
it's
best
well,
thing.
it took a while. It took a while. It wasn't easy, and yeah, I think the acknowledgement part
Yeah,
was not the easy part because I think a lot of people have egos, right?
for
But as I
sure.
said here, yeah, I have to be very candid because yeah, everything was on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Then I realized, yeah, the staff actually felt tense around me. They just really weren't that connected. Maybe I wasn't as sincere as I could be. And then it's funny, as I'm actually telling you this, I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like, hey, this can apply to many aspects of our lives, right? It's like when I
Um,
think about marriage, oh, my spouse is telling me, oh, you're not a good listener, you're not
here.
being fully present. I'm not here to ask you to solve a problem. Can you just be empathetic? Blah blah blah. Right? It's
Yeah.
actually true.
Uh-huh.
Then I think about like why was I that way? Why wasn't I fully present or not empathetic, etc. And then I realized that I had been programmed to think, oh, you are paid the salary, so you should deliver a multiple of how much you're paid. Your job is to produce these deliverables. And subconsciously, I have prioritized them, or I'm talking about staff,
Mm-hmm.
as a tool to boosting the bottom line because that's how I was often treated in the corporate world as I was climbing the corporate ladder. Everybody was evaluating me based on these numerical KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, if you think about the other way, you're an amazing and talented person. We appreciate your choosing to work here. We will support you regardless because we're tied to the hip. We're a
Mm-hmm.
family. We trust and care about you. And we know you will give it your 100% at work.
Uh-huh.
And with that mindset, ultimately the bottom line will be the result. And we can all
Yeah.
kind of guess where the bottom line will go, right?
Mm.
Between thinking between these two different mindsets. So do you see the difference here?
Yeah.
Right.
Big.
And yeah, and so with that, everyone's happy. Staff is happy. I'm happy. Bottom line's
Mm-hmm.
good. Shareholders are happy. Imagine how fulfilling it is to wake up to that every day. And
Yeah.
so that was like the big epiphany and a new philosophy to leadership.
Mhm. I agree. That epiphany about the true essence of leadership is like switching from standard definition to 4K. It's clearer, richer, and just hits differently, as you said. It's great that you also managed to realize it and acknowledge it, because, as you said, that's the hard part, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Uh-huh. And you've also mentioned that your pivot to coaching professionals stem from your passion for education and unlocking potential, Anthony. How do you take those transformative experiences from your career and craft them into actionable tools for your clients?
Before talking about the tools, let me elaborate a bit more on the transformative experiences, which I know I mentioned some in the previous interview.
Uh-huh.
Again, having climbed the corporate ladder, becoming a leader from founding two businesses from scratch, gave me a very different perspective of leadership. In the former, the corporate world, I earned it through time. I paid
Mm-hmm.
my dues by dedicating X number of years to this industry. Then I got my senior title as a partner or head of XYZ department, right? And that's the
Mm-hmm.
conventional route that most people take.
Uh-huh.
But when I pivoted into founding my second business in education with no prior industry experience, I have no direct expertise or track record to show. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, most staff I inherited from taking over these businesses questioned why they need to look up to me and respect me, aside from the fact I happen to be the person with access to the bank account to pay them their salary and bonuses.
Uh-huh.
And staff didn't really care about my finance pedigree or my resume. The most challenging part was I also had to lead a team comprising 100% female across
Mm-hmm.
ethnic groups, demographics, and education level, white
Mm-hmm.
collar, blue collar, and something I had never done before and was trained to do.
Uh-huh.
That
Very
made,
detailed.
yeah, it was again another eye opening experience. And that made me realize the importance of humble and authentic leadership. I had to earn their trust and respect through
Mm-hmm.
empathy and compassion at their level,
Mm-hmm.
not my level, but it's that at their level. They didn't
Right.
go to work thinking about, oh, it's always about money, it's about KPIs. But for them was they went to work with love, with gentleness and passion for toddlers, which
Mm-hmm.
honestly is a very difficult job, I must say. And I had to connect with them with the same kind of love, gentleness, and passion. So
Mm-hmm.
I created, or I had to create a workplace for them to feel like it was a home, and
Yeah.
I was just a housekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
As a leader, I openly admit to them what I don't know, but that I was very eager to have them teach me about my job responsibility while I
Mm-hmm.
focus on letting them shine individually and as a team. And I had to prove to them that I may not be able to perform their duties, but at least as the leader, I was able to provide them the sense of security,
Mm-hmm.
comfort, freedom, and trust to do what they enjoy and are capable of.
And those are very
And
important things.
it is,
Yeah.
it's interesting you say important, but a lot
Mm.
of us, especially as we're working, we take those for granted, right? We
Yeah,
just
we
feel
tend to
like,
forget about them when in fact it's the core of our being human or our humanity.
yeah, that is correct. I think yeah, we get distracted with more sometimes we call practical and materialistic things, right? And then we
Right.
forgo some of these basic human needs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so so therefore, as somebody who assumed a leadership role by having taken different paths,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to offer my clients a valuable tool. At least I think it's valuable, and that is called perspective. It's
Yeah.
like putting on different glasses to look at the same thing,
Uh-huh.
or looking at yourself in a what we call distorting mirrors. Like when you go to
Here.
carnival, sometimes you look into a mirror, you look super tall, super stretched out,
Mm-hmm.
and just different perspectives, right? So I'm able to offer that to my clients for them to have their own epiphany. And I help them visualize in ways they could not have imagined on their own. Depending on the client situation, I'm able to put them in various scenarios to let them define and choose what kind of leader they are today and want to
Mm-hmm.
become. And I can help them pave that path and the process in getting to the destination.
Mm-hmm.
So many clients challenge me and say, and they actually often say, "Oh, but this kind of leadership just doesn't work in this organization."
Mm-hmm.
And I challenged him back, and I'm like, "Well, why do you think that's the case?"
Mm-hmm.
And over our sessions, you'd be amazed that my many of my clients who challenge me on this end up realizing on their own that ultimately humans all want similar traits from their leaders. And what are those?
Mm-hmm.
Those are trust, comfort, and security.
Mm-hmm.
And that they can all become that leader if they embrace that as a possibility. And
Uh-huh.
I can tell you there's no organization out there that doesn't want their employees to feel trusted, comforted, and secure.
I completely agree. And that's very profound, Anthony. I like how you compare the practice as if you're looking into a mirror and you're essentially giving your clients a leadership GPS in this case, helping them plot their own route and but with a recalculating feature for when they, inevitably hit the doubtful moments. And we know that leadership often requires a delicate dance between hitting the numbers and nurturing relationships. So, how do you coach executives to balance these priorities while inspiring trust and authenticity in their teams?
This is not easy because ultimately companies need to report to shareholders who care about profits and share prices.
Uh huh.
Having said that, though, I coach executives to first acknowledge that it is human beings and teams they lead that would generate the profits to satisfy shareholders. Ultimately, is it comes back to the people. So that's the first thing. And one exercise I like is to bring executives back to the days when they were starting out as junior employees.
Uh
I
huh.
asked them, what kind of leader did you wish you had? Or if you could choose your own leader, what is that person like?
How does
And
it look like?
yeah, I'm sure everybody, when we were starting out or rising up the ranks, we asked ourselves those same questions, right?
Uh huh.
And I've never gotten an answer where a client would say, "Oh, I wish I had a leader who drove profits or share prices up 5x," or I wish I had a leader who put money above all else. But rather, the answers I often get are, the leader makes me feel important,
Uh
heard,
huh.
genuinely care about me as a person, care about what I want. And then
Mm-hmm.
I ask, when you feel heard and cared for, how does it make you feel about your job? And they would say, it feels great. I want to go to work hard, and do my best. And then I ask them, well, if everyone feels that way, do you
Mm-hmm.
think your employer would do well? You know, what the answer is, of course. So this is kind of the kind of back and forth conversations, and then the logic as you see, like staff start to the coach starts to transform a little bit and think differently about leadership from when they first start to gradually over time. And to tie back to my own journey to help inspire trust and authenticity in leaders, then I refer to my own privilege of having run a preschool group for years, having seen hundreds of children from 2 months to 6 years old grow up under our care and in front of my very own eyes. I
Mm-hmm.
actually learned a lot about life and leadership by looking after toddlers. Well, firstly, ask yourself the question, why toddlers willingly choose to follow someone like a teacher.
Uh huh.
It's because it makes them comfortable. It makes them feel cared for. They feel safe.
Feel safe. Uh-huh.
These are, we talked about earlier, these are basic human needs, and
Mm-hmm.
babies don't, or toddlers don't have any ulterior motive but to follow somebody who provides that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this applies to many aspects of life and other relationships. Yet when we grow up to be so-called business leaders, most leaders can't evoke such emotions in their team members, but instead they instill fear and anxiety in subordinates.
Mm-hmm.
I then realized that many of us actually have that leadership ability within us, but often we get distracted by focusing on KPIs and numbers.
Right.
And then again, this big title and big authority that we have next to our business card. And the biggest obstacle is that we put our ego first, like
Mm-hmm.
myself initially. And that's why I love coaching executives to unleash that, to bring us back to be as naive and simple as possible.
Mm-hmm. So it's less about crunching numbers and more about crunching egos, right?
Yeah,
Well,
squashing all those egos. Squash it.
yeah. Well, I always like it when you tie it back to preschoolers, Anthony. And let's be honest, if we could lead with the same magic that keeps toddlers from, throwing tantrums, and we'd probably solve half the world's workplace issues.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, we're pretty much aware that in today's world, success seems to be taking on new dimensions, Anthony. From your perspective, how is the definition of career fulfillment evolving, and what role does leadership play in achieving it?
Leadership is becoming a more meaningful part of people's professional lives. It's not so much about the monetary remuneration that comes with it. In fact, I notice more people are sacrificing compensation for roles that give them more leadership opportunities. I
Mm-hmm.
personally believe people now desire a greater sense of achievement and purpose in life rather than just money. Often that
Mm-hmm.
is driven by the impact that they can make.
Yeah.
So, for example, I asked my coachees some questions like, how important is leadership to you? Would you rather want more pay but doing the same thing, or
Mhm.
the same pay but to do more as a real leader that inspires many? Majority of my clients actually choose the latter, which is they rather have the same pay but be more like a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible, again, we talked about previously that social media has been playing a big role in this.
Yeah.
And especially after the pandemic, more people now realize that life is fleeting. People can always now go online and show, oh, look at all the impact I'm making and influencing people. And it's about being true to yourself and making a difference. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no better way to evoke impact than being a leader.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, many professionals haven't had proper training to be leaders. More and more employees and employers acknowledge that. And that's where I come in to fill that gap.
Uh-huh.
Often leadership doesn't always mean head of something or chief whatever, or
Uh-huh.
managing director C-suite. But as long as one's role is to inspire people to follow him or her, that warrants leadership training. And it could be as simple as leading two other people.
Mm-hmm.
For example, at my preschool, when I promoted a staff from teacher to senior teacher, the principal can give that senior teacher a standard template of tasks. It's literally just going to your computer, hit print, and then this document comes out and, well, here's your new checklist of things to do. It was 10
Mm-hmm.
things, now it's 15 things, and just follow these, check, right? But
Yeah.
when I come in to train, I ask the question, if you're to lead another teacher, what do you need to do? A common answer I get is, I train them. And I
Yeah.
say, sure, that is a new task. It's another task on your checklist of things to do. What
Mm-hmm.
else? They give me an answer like, oh, well, I need to give more feedback on curriculum. I need to engage with parents more, et cetera, et cetera. So
Uh-huh.
again, these are more tasks. Then I
Yeah.
ask them, well, then think about the children here. Why do they follow you? Why do they want to leave their
Go to school.
parents or leave their home to go to school every day to
Mm-hmm.
be under your care? Then the teacher will say, oh, because I care about them, I love them, they love me, they feel safe with me. And then
Uh-huh.
I say, well, exactly. That's what you need to make other teachers feel as a leader now,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and they're under your care now.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is my definition of success. And I strongly believe that more organizations are buying into this.
Right. You're saying it's less about the paycheck and more about the legacy, Anthony. It's very interesting to actually see that cultural shift. And for many professionals, leadership feels abstract, almost like a motivational poster in a break room. So, how do you make it real and actionable, especially for those transitioning from operational to strategic roles?
This is one topic or challenge that I coach my clients on. As you said, very correct, is that leadership is tough to measure and it's
Mm-hmm.
subjective. And
Yeah.
often it could take a long time for results to manifest. And that is the reason why many companies focus more on numerical KPIs or completing a checklist of things.
Mm-hmm.
Managers became senior managers by excelling in managing or completing tasks or churning out deliverables.
KPIs.
But if we think about words like, oh, it's a, we never hear the word like, oh, it's such a toxic task or toxic job, but
Uh-huh.
we often hear the word, oh, it was a toxic boss, toxic culture, toxic environment, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
And yeah, so the first point the client needs to grasp is to make leadership more tangible for them is that they need to understand it's people who cause toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Tasks or operations do not lead to a toxic culture. Aside from compassion, being truly engaged with yourself and being empathetic, which may seem somewhat generic and abstract to budding leaders, I
Mm-hmm.
ask my clients a few high level questions on leadership that has nothing to do with operations or tasks.
Okay.
So, first one being, do you think your team truly wants to follow you and why? And in this case, I often use the toddler following a teacher analogy, the one I had used previously.
Mm-hmm.
Another question is when you are not working at this company anymore or stripped of your title, does your team truly want to follow you and be inspired by you? Why or why not?
Mm-hmm.
Third question is what do you think are the traits your team members look for in a leader? Do they see those in you? And if there are gaps, what will you do about them?
That's a good question.
You'd be surprised. A lot of people actually don't know these answers, even though they have very senior titles. And yeah, when they come back and say, I'm not sure, then I say, you know what? To make it more tangible, you can just go ask your staff or ask, what do you think? How do you think you will get the answer?
Yeah.
And then often the coachee or the client would just say, oh, maybe I should ask my staff. And I said, yes, that's probably the best way
Best.
to get your answer. And for those who are used to performing, looking at numerical KPIs, then I challenge them and I say, why don't you go candidly rate yourself every so often from a 1 to 10, with 10
Mm-hmm.
being the highest for each of the questions I had just raised. And if you don't have a 10, then just keep working towards a 10.
Right.
And so that is a way for you to think about, oh, KPIs, but at the same time, this is actually a way to build leadership.
Mm-hmm.
My clients will eventually agree that the higher the score they can get on the above, that will lead to a more loyal and happier and productive staff. And that will lead to a more overall conducive environment, and profits or higher profits will then ensue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain there is no leader who doesn't want that outcome.
Right. And I agree. Self assessment is really powerful, Anthony. It's a good reflection moment to know if your team has a leader worth following. And I remember what I read recently about leadership. It says it isn't a title, it's a verb. It's the doing, the learning, the listening, and occasionally the unlearning. So, Anthony, we appreciate you again taking us on another journey that's part executive seminar, part soul searching retreat. So thank you once again for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So there you go, guys. If you're curious about how to lead better, or frankly, just how to sleep better at night, knowing your team doesn't secretly fear you, you can find more about Anthony's coaching and insights at ifgreatness.com. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, leadership isn't just for the C-suite, it's for everyone who dares to inspire, to create, and to lead by example. You better catch us again in the next episodes. This has been your host, Miles. Stay focused and inspired with X-Rays.